If you've watched these app making videos all the way through, then you'll know why I'm so cynical. In 2014, my friend and I had this terrible idea to make an app, and we launched it, and it failed. And looking back, there are so many things that we did wrong. At the time, both of us were working full-time jobs, so we didn't have any time to both maintain the app and have any form of personal life. We didn't have time or energy to support 70,000 non-paying users. We had spent way too much of our own personal money, and keeping it alive would mean coughing up even more cash that we didn't have. In short, we had created an expensive, time-consuming monster, and we were in way over our heads. So in the end, about a year after launch, we just decided to kill it. With this new app, I don't want to make the same mistakes again, but the odds of this new thing being a success are not great. As if creating an app isn't hard enough, keeping users engaged is probably the biggest challenge of all. There are millions of apps out there, and a lot of them have years of history of killing boredom. So competition is fierce, and users have incredibly high expectations. If I can't find ways to keep users interested in coming back, they'll be gone. More than 75% of apps downloaded are only opened once. 80% of users delete an app after 90 days. And in 2018, less than 1 in every 10,000 apps could be considered a financial success. Developers tend not to be good at follow-ups. We move on to the next interesting challenge. More often than not, app creators haven't a clue how to plan for life after launch at all. Let's talk to someone who did.
We have 10 full-time people in the company, and we have a lot of sort of freelancers and contractors who do work for us occasionally. So for example, all the development and the art and things like that are done in-house by full-time employees. We don't outsource the development because it's really important to us that's, we sort of retain that knowledge, and we want to keep those developers for a long time. For things like recording the story and the audio that goes into Zombies Run, we do that in big bursts, like any TV show or movie. And so we have a cast of characters and of actors, and we have sound engineers and people like that who we use, a few times a year to come on board.
And in terms of subscribers, I guess that's the second question. How many subscribers does it take to keep Zombies Run going? Again, you may not want to give exact numbers on this, but
we have tens of thousands of subscribers, and so that makes up most of our income. And we also sell a lot of merchandise, and we have this thing called a virtual race, which people also buy into. So it's kind of, it's unusual. Like, people usually don't buy like a t-shirt for like Apple iBooks or something, but they do buy the Zombies Run t-shirt because they really identify with the story and the characters in the same way that people might buy like an Avengers t-shirt, that it works that way. The really important thing with our subscribers is that it makes it really predictable how much money we're going to be earning tomorrow or next month or next year. I think one of the really terrifying things with like paid apps with games is that you might make a lot of money today, but it might just stop tomorrow. But with subscriptions, it's a lot more predictable.
Zombies Run is on both Android and iOS. And over 8 years, presumably you've had to make a lot of updates to keep pace with the changing phones and the changing platform. How difficult is it to manage the upkeep?
Every June, we live in fear of what Apple has in store for us. There's like a new iOS release, a Worldwide Developers Conference, iOS 13 coming out this year. And invariably, it will break something in Zombies Run. And for our older apps, it may stop them working entirely. So when a new iPhone comes out, like iPhone X, iPhone 10, it's got a new shape. You don't get it for free. You need to go and update your app to go and fit that. And then, there's a new iPad, and you have core features that people just expect you to support. So maybe you don't need to do that, but like Apple Health integration or Apple Watch integration, these become like table stakes. You need to do them, otherwise you're falling back. And so, it is exciting to support these things. We were one of the first apps to support Siri on iOS 12, but that's a lot of work. And so I think that's part of the reason why a lot of apps have gone to a subscription system, because these days you can't put an app out there and just sort of, dust off your hands and say, well, we're done for the next 3 years. We'll see you in 3 years' time. Please buy our next app.
Have you ever been tempted to just throw in the towel and say, that's it, we've reached a natural end here, we're going to stop it? What makes you carry on?
We have made apps and games that we've had to mothball. partly because it's been too expensive to keep maintaining them. And I think that is tough because you feel like you failed, basically. You tried to make this thing that you put a lot of energy into. You thought at one point it would be really good, and you thought it would be amazing and this would be a huge success, and it's not. But, if you don't stop working on them, then you can't make the new thing that might be better.
You have to really be thinking, even before you've put pen to paper to describe what your app is going to be, you really have to think about where you need to be in 2-3 years' time. That is important, and plan out how to get there. Because once you've launched it, as I say, you've only just started your journey.
We actually do have a game in live ops. So it's a game that keeps continuing updating even after launch. So we have a lot of events and one-shots where players can come in and play more rounds with other players. And it's a lot of upkeep, and we do have a lot of very dedicated players who seem to be asking for more and more events, and it does get tiring, but they keep coming back and they enjoy your game, so why not keep updating it?
I think it would be very difficult. We make paid games, so for the most part, we don't maintain something as a service. If we have the ideas and there's a demand for it, we'll do an expansion or we'll do a sequel. But then it's got to make sense. You don't want to make a sequel that's just more of the same. Like, what is it? What question is it answering that hasn't already been answered? And maybe that's a more kind of like creative-centric answer to that question than a business one. It's probably terrible business advice. But I think if you want to make a sustainable business that's known for quality, that people are going to go download your app when it's a new game because they respect you for that quality, then maybe you should only do things when they're right and not just because they make immediate business sense.
I've given it a lot of thought. I do really like the app we've built. It's the kind of simple idea that could actually go somewhere. But from my experience with the old emoji app, the one I released with my friend Matt years ago, I know how hard it is to keep something like this alive, because building an app is really only the first step in a much longer journey. Matt and I didn't realise that with the old emoji app. To be honest, we didn't think hard about most of it, because it was a joke, and it was one we could decide to end without much heartbreak, or any heartbreak. Plus, there was the customer service. We got way more users than we expected at the beginning, and providing technical support for all those people took a huge amount of our time. I said back at the very beginning of this series, you probably don't want to build an app, but I did want to challenge that assumption. Maybe I was wrong, and now I've talked to plenty of people about all the things that I didn't know. What have I learned? Well, first of all, building an app really does take a lot of your time. There is a heck of a lot of research and planning involved. You can't just barge in and build it, not if you want it to work. And all the key decisions are difficult and can be expensive. And at every stage of development, you really need to test your idea with users so you have actual data to inform your decisions. I've already got a day job. To make a success of this app, it would need to be more than just a side project. It would need all my attention and all my focus, or else I'd need to outsource the whole thing, like I was putting up a merch store and someone else was handling it, and that doesn't feel right either. This app is a bit too personal for that. And secondly, making an app successful takes a lot of money. On average, you need to spend about 15, maybe 20% of your original development costs every year just to keep your app up to date and working. So if you spend somehow 100k developing it, that's 15, 20k a year just on maintenance. Unless you are confident you can make money from your app, that is a lot of cash to drop on a side project for brand awareness. Even if building apps is your full-time job, managing that app after launch is incredibly challenging, with loads of issues that you just wouldn't expect. So, building an app can be a fantastic thing to do. It can be a fun side project, but keeping it alive is another challenge altogether. Over this series, we have covered, I hope, all the issues that you need to think about if you are going to give your app the best chance of survival. Assuming that you've got that far, assuming that you have launched your app out into the world, assuming that it's out there, you will eventually have to make the decision. Have you got the time, resources, and energy to keep it going? Do you want to spend the next couple of years on this project? Launching your app is half the battle, but it's only half. Have a clear plan for the first few hours, days, and weeks after launch. Look at the data for how many people are discovering your app, how many are converting to downloads, and how often they're opening your app. This is where any analytics that you have built in can really come in handy. Next up, maintenance and fixes are vital to keep users happy. Use prompts to ask your users to rate the app, but also to give feedback on any issues. You need to know what's working well and what isn't. If users report any bugs or crashes, fix them as fast as you can. Giving users the sense that their opinion is both heard and valued is a good way to encourage loyalty. Plan for regular updates and new features. Check what percentage of users are still using your app after a day, a week, and a month. And if it's less than expected, ask yourself why and decide what to do to try and make improvements. And keep your users interested. Plan for regular updates with new content or features. And finally, know when it's over. At some point, it's time for a reality check. It is only an app. If it's sapping all your time and money and bringing you very little in return, then maybe it's time to kill it and to move on to whatever's next.